Welcome to another video on memory. We're still looking at models for explaining human memory, and this video specifically looks at the level of processing that Craig and Lockhart came up with. So unlike the other two models that we've looked at, Craig and Lockhart suggest that memory is not made up of three separate stores, and they don't clearly distinguish between short-term memory and long-term memory as the other two models that we've looked at do. Rather, they look at levels of processing. So they suggest that after this information leaves sensory memory, its storage varies along a continuum of levels of processing. So it goes shallow, intermediate, and deep. And this level of processing is used during encoding to determine how well and how long this information can then be stored and then obviously retrieved later when needed. So we have here three levels, so shallow, intermediate, and deep processing that we're going to have a look at. So shallow is processing information using structural encoding. So structural means physical. So what does it physically look like? What does that stimulus physically look like? It's not a very good way of processing information because it doesn't look at any type of meaning. So it's only going to create weak memory traces that can fade or be hard to retrieve. But maintenance rehearsal, so maintenance rehearsal remembering is when we're repeating that information either verbally or silently, uses shallow processing. What does it physically look like? What is it structural encoding? And that's what shallow processing is. Intermediate processing uses phonemic encoding. So what does it sound like when we're identifying or naming the information? So thinking about what it sounds like. What are we saying? What can we hear? Which is an intermediate level of processing there. And then if we have a deep level of processing, we're looking at semantic encoding. So this is linking new information to previously learned information or stuff that's already in our long-term memory. Deep processing creates deep or really strong memory traces if you compare them to the other two levels. And obviously the stronger the memory trace, the easier it is to retrieve that information or find that information, and it's obviously going to last longer because it's a stronger memory trace. Elaborate rehearsal, so that's again the linking of new information to stuff in long-term memory, is using this deep processing or semantic encoding. So to summarize, so there's three levels of processing that Craig and Lockhart came up with. There's shallow processing, so structurally, what does it physically look like? And there's an example here. Is it written in capital letters? Has it got some capitals and some small letters? What does it physically look like? Intermediate processing looks at what does it sound like? So does it rhyme with something? Does it sound like something else? What are the letters are you sounding out? And deep level of processing uses semantic encoding or the meaning and linking that into stuff that we already know. Would the word fit into the sentence? What is the meaning of the sentence? And as we move down these levels of processing, we're altering the memory trace. So shallow processing has weak memory traces compared to the other two, and deep processing has strong memory traces. If we have strong memory traces, that means that we can store that information for longer because it's a stronger memory we've created, and we can also retrieve that information better compared to weak memory traces which don't last as long and are harder to retrieve at a later date. Nice little table here that summarizes that information that you might like to write down, and that is Craig and Lockhart's level of processing model.